Hey, everybody, welcome back to Walk the Talk America's podcast, Guns and Mental Health. We are happy to be streaming live to you this afternoon. It's a Monday. It's thunderstorming here in northern Nevada, and we are joined by Eddie in North Carolina, Mike in Las Vegas, and Yehuda Remer, the Pew Pew Jew from Dallas-ish Metroplex area in Texas. Hello, Yehuda. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. It's good to be back. Been a while.
It has. It's been like a full 4 years, I think. It's
Oh,
been a
has it
long time and
really?
a
Has it
lot's
been that
transpired.
that long?
I believe so. Yeah, you were one of our
Wow.
firsts way back in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, and some stuff has changed since then.
You can say that. You can
I
say
did say that.
I've released an almost New York Times bestseller. Almost.
That's an
You know.
almost New York Times
Yeah,
bestseller. It's like you're
yeah. What?
right before the cliff. Like,
How
I
do you get
just
there?
that's what I call bullet points. It's my almost New York Times bestseller. It's just another way to troll everybody because it works and it's funny, and I don't care if you're offended.
That's really funny. No, yeah. All right, let's start there. Let's start with the publications, and we'll catch up on everything else. So, um, bullet points is a really cool subtitle. What is it?
Yeah, it's reasons why America should embrace common sense gun law.
And you've got some pretty powerful endorsements on that book too.
Oh, I've got a bunch of new ones recently too. I mean, from the original ones, I got Ben Shapiro, I got Mike Mahalski, Sons of Liberty, Gunworks. I got Brandon Herrera, Cheryl Todd, Kevin Dixie, Congresswoman Anna Polina, and then recently I just got Texas Gun Rights. I got Eric Pratt from Gun Owners, and then I also got National Association for Gun Rights. All wrote me fantastic reviews for that book. So there's a lot of power behind that book.
And that just shows how many people want to embrace common sense gun control policies, right?
Yeah, I mean these are all 2A absolutists, right? No compromise organizations. But here I am writing a book, a 220-page book that's pro common sense gun law, and you know, um, it's fantastic. The support's been amazing.
I'm having a really tough time keeping a straight face because I know the contents of the book. If there's anybody listening who has not bought the book, I don't want to spoil it. You should just go out and buy the book, and
Yeah,
it
this is
makes
what it
for
looks
great
like right
gifts.
there. Yep,
Yep.
great gifts right there. Bullet points, reasons why America should embrace common sense gun law. So it's actually become one of my bestsellers, probably my top three out of the 9 books.
What is number one? Is it Safety On?
Safety on still number one. It's my first one. It's been out the longest, but that's something that's not going out of fashion anytime soon. So that's something I actually just sent a couple of my books. I had a long conversation last night with Dick Heller, and he was very interested in my book. So I sent him a little care package today.
For the people who aren't interested in our inside baseball talk, maybe we should catch them up on who you are and what you do. You you write, you advocate, you comment on various things, but chiefly the Safety On book it was the first thing I bought after I met you. I bought it for my children. It's a children's gun safety book, is what it is, and I want everybody to understand a little bit more about who you are and why you're so important to the community. So, for people who are maybe not hip to this and are meeting you for the first time, please introduce yourself, give it a little bit more comprehensive overview, and maybe tell the story about how you got into the firearms community as the Orthodox Jew, the Pew Pew Jew. Like that's a whole motif that I think really bears explaining, and also a really good story behind it.
Yeah. So my name's Yehuda Remer. I launched a brand in 2019 called the Pew Pew Jew, and the idea behind that was there was no Jewish representation in the gun industry. There were Jews working in different aspects of the gun industry, but mainly sales, buyers for companies. But there was no one actually in the advocacy side, and that even came later because I started off. writing my first book in 2011. It took me 6 years to get published. I was turned down by over 35 literary agents, publishing companies. I was like, I mean, it was a really tough journey, but eventually I got my first book published in 2017, and I wrote the book because my children needed something that they could have, that they could learn about gun safety. And I was shocked that there was nothing on the market. Eddie Eagle was there, but the only thing Eddie Eagle talks about is what to do if you find a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be, when there's so much more to gun safety than that. So I wrote my first book, and I wrote it for my kids, and I also wrote it kind of to shut my parents up, because they at the time had just found out that I owned a gun. They didn't know about my AR or my shotgun. They just found out about my handgun, and they like fully lost it. Full on Chernobyl meltdown, right? Like full on nuclear meltdown. And I needed a way to show them that, like, no, I'm living with a tool in the home, and not only am I responsible, but I'm going to ensure that my kids are responsible as well. So I wrote my first book, Safety On, in about 20 minutes, sent it to a buddy of mine who's in the LAPD, tore it to shreds with constructive criticism, walked me through gun lingo and like proper gun safety things, small little details that I was missing. And yeah, that I the and what got me into the advocacy side, really, I was going to be a one-off author, right? Like write a book, say I'm a published author, and then call it a day. That was my dream, to become a published author. I was at the USCCA Expo in Fort Worth one year in 2017. It was like April. And I walked over to Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation. I said, Mr. Gottlieb, I'm a big fan. Can you endorse my book and write me a blurb? And he's like, yep, no problem. Do you want to speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Gun Rights Policy Conference? What, there's probably like 30 people that go, right? Like, who knew, right? Like, it's a gun rights conference, right? It's not like a SHOT Show. So I'm like, yeah, like no problem. Yeah, I'll do it. No problem. And after I said yes, I'm like, oh, so how many people usually come to this? He's like, oh, I don't know, 400 or 500. And like, I just white as a ghost, because I hate public speaking. I mean, I used to, now it doesn't bother me, but I hated it. And I walk into my house, my wife's like, are you okay? I'm like, I think I screwed up. And, but I forced myself to speak 6 months later, and the rest is kind of history.
Why is it so important to be a Jew in the firearms community? That's your thing. But talk about that, because I know the backstory, but I think it's much better hearing it from you.
So, I mean, I think it's important to be a Jew in the gun industry, not just because I'm a Jew, right? So, one thing I get in a lot of hot water and I talk about is there's so many people who are out there who are like, I am a, and I'll just use me as an example. I don't usually say this, but I'm a Jewish gun rights activist. I'm like, no, I'm a gun rights activist who happens to be Jewish, right? Just because I'm Jewish and I have a whole brand doesn't mean that I am focusing on the gun rights activist, right? Second Amendment's for everyone. I'm not using, I have a voice because I'm the only Jew doing what I'm doing. However, I think it's a very important, everyone's like, well, we need to have gun rights for this group and that group and this group. I'm like, yeah, why don't we just have gun rights for all American citizens, right? Like, let's just, right? Why does it have to be a certain group? Now, everyone's gonna be like, well, that's kind of going against what you're doing because, you're the Pew Pew Jew. I'm like, yeah, I needed to make money, right? I needed to support a family, so I launched the brand. But I am a Second Amendment rights activist, first and foremost. And this is where it gets in hot water too. I'm like, and I'm a Jew second. Now, obviously, we all know. I mean, I've had meals with Mike and Jake, and you guys know that I don't eat. I follow my Judaism to a T. At the NRA show, I'm never at conferences on Saturdays. I'm Friday night to Saturday night. I'm shut down. So, but when it comes to gun rights, I'm a gun rights activist first and a Jew second. So it gets me in hot water when I say that, because there are a lot of organizations out there who were X organization that's a gun rights organization. So if you get my meaning, I don't want to call anyone out, because then I'm just not in the mood to start a fight with people.
Call them out, man. Let's go. Let's just start some shit. Let's.
Yeah, no, I get it. You don't want to play identity politics. We've had enough of that. And we're all sick of it.
We have so much identity politics. Look. I've made a name for myself where Jews across the country are calling me, asking for advice, and I'm happy to give it. But at the same time, I'm taking non-Jews to the range just as much as I'm taking Jews, and not right now, no, but before that, I was, because I'm here to teach anyone that wants to learn. I don't care who you are. I don't care your sexual orientation. I don't care if you're, black, Asian, Jewish, white. I mean, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't. If you're pro-gun, then we can have fun together and enjoy each other's company. If you're anti-gun, then I'll just give you a really hard time and probably not deal with you so much.
Yehuda, I got a question for you. Why do you think? Why has it taken? Obviously, October changed the world. Changed the world for a lot of the Jewish community as a whole. I was. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a conference with Debbie Plotnick, who is Jewish, and she is the vice president of Mental Health America. And as soon as we saw each other and we were getting ready to present, she said, my people now are getting into guns more than ever after what happened in October. Why do you think? And maybe I'm wrong, but why do you think it took something like that? Like you said, your parents had a meltdown, right?
Right.
I feel like you've been the one who's always saying, no, we need this. Like, we need the Second Amendment. Second Amendment is so important for our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, why does it take so long? And kind of, I guess, two parts. Like, how do you see it going now after the horrific events that we all witnessed in our...
Okay, so that's a very good question. First off, if Debbie Plotnick ever needs to talk to a Jew about guns, send her my way. That's a good int to have. Secondly, what's interesting is Jews didn't wake up because of October 7th. They woke up because of all the anti-Semitism and the pro-Hamas rallies that we're seeing in America, right? That's why they're waking up. That we're disconnected from Israel. We love Israel, but we're disconnected from Israel because we live in America. So what happens in Israel doesn't mean we're any less safe. But what makes us less safe in America is all of these pro-Hamas rallies and pro-Palestinian rallies. You have the Democratic Party, who literally are chock full of terrorists like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. So that's why Jews in America are terrified and why they're picking up guns. Now, why it took so long? I mean, you guys have known me for 7.5 years. I mean, Mike especially. You've known me from the beginning, really. I've been calling from the top of my lungs for 7.5 years. Don't wait for it to happen to you. Unfortunately, I think most people wait for it to happen to them until they decide to do something about it. Now, if you want to go back in history, right, you talk about Jews. How come Jews vote Democrat, right? And this ties into why a lot of Jews are anti-gun, right? Why do Jews vote Democrat? Well, my theory is in the 1800s in Eastern Europe, you had a lot of pogroms and you had a lot of anti-Semitism. And Jews realized that if they fought back, they killed one Cossack, the Cossacks would come back and kill 100 Jews, right? So it would be like 100-fold. So they learned to stay in their little areas, their little ghettos, keep their heads down. If anything happened, it is what it is. Now, fast forward to America in the early 1900s, you have a ton of Jews voting Democrat, voting Republican. It wasn't a Jews voting Democrat thing. Then you have FDR passing the New Deal, and you have all these social welfare programs. You have the Holocaust. Holocaust finishes. You have millions of refugees coming over from Eastern Europe, from all over Europe, I should say, coming to America with nothing on their back except the clothes they have on. But when they get to America, they have all of these brand new social welfare programs put in place by Democrats. So they become very, very connected and loyal to the Democratic Party over the years. Oh, sorry. On top of that, they just lived through the Holocaust. The last thing that they want to see in their life is a gun. Right? They don't want to see violence anymore. They don't want to have that in their lives anymore. So they're like, okay, we just don't want guns in our lives. And over time, we know what happened since 1940s and then 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, up till today. The Democratic Party, who they're incredibly loyal to, have become the liberal party and vehemently anti-gun. And there's a lot of Jews out there who are still, well, the Democrats say it's bad, so it's bad, right? So within Judaism, there's different sects, right? So you have like Reformed and conservative Judaism, and when I mean by conservative, I don't mean political. I don't mean politically. Think Reformed and conservative Jews as, and I mean it's a little deeper than this, obviously, but think of them as like cafeteria Catholics, right? You kind of pick and choose what you want to follow in your religion, and then you have, and they Reformed and conservative Jews tend to be liberal. And this is not a blanket statement. I know a lot of Reformed Jews and conservative Jews who are incredibly pro-gun. So it's not a blanket statement, but like, you have a bunch of ginos in Congress, in the U.S. government, Jews in name only, right? Who literally are the biggest gun grabbers, from Dianne Feinstein, Bloomberg, Blumenthal, God, can't even name all of them, but you get my point, right? So, but they don't represent Judaism. They don't represent, right? Just because you're a Jew in name only doesn't make you represent Judaism. And hell, I don't represent Judaism, right? There's countless Jews out there who worship in their own way, and I'm not going to judge you how you worship. That's between you and God. But when you take Orthodox Judaism, within Orthodox Judaism, which I fall under Orthodox Judaism, you'll have Jews who are very pro-gun, but they just don't want to have anything to do with guns. Like, no, we it's unsafe. We're pro Second Amendment. You can do whatever you want. We just don't want to have anything to do with it. Then you have your Jews who are kind of closet gun owners, and they're closet gun owners because, like, for example, on our Sabbath, right? There's no TV, there's no electronics. We don't do any of that. There's a lot of families that get together and spend time with one another. So if my child wants to have a play date, but I don't want to make my child a pariah because his parents own guns. So you have Jews who are quiet about it because of that. Then you have Jews who are not, I'm not going to say vocal, but who, hey, we own guns, we go to the gun range, they don't shy away from the fact. Then you have like a handful of Orthodox Jews across the country who are out there vocal, yelling at people to, arm up, don't wait for it to happen to you. And when I say a handful, I literally mean a handful. And I fall in that category. So that kind of is I know it wasn't so short, but a much shorter breakdown of Jews and guns and what, to answer your question.
I mean, I appreciate that answer because it's manifold representation across a bunch of different demographics. I mean, you touched on the immigration issue with, desperate people from different parts of the world arriving in the United States and then maybe being sculpted or pushed into certain political affiliations based on the resources being given to them by those parties. But then you also mentioned the violence thing, and I'm thinking about the work that some of our friends do with the inner city youth, especially, but also the parents, how, firearms are really prevalent in the poorest communities, but they're poorly trained and experienced. And there's the same aversion to violence, but they don't really know what to do about that. And so it's easier to just support some candidate who says, we'll take violence away. But, oh, by the way, you also have a right to defend yourself. And I think that message universally was missing for a really long time. And I know for sure it was missing in my life. And I've explained in various forums before where I say, I used to be one of those guys who didn't get the AR thing. I mean, I owned an AR, but I was like, I was lukewarm about it. Nobody really needs an AR, right? And then I understood the purpose of the Second Amendment. And I for whatever reason, I think that education is lacking. And I think that's what you bring, not just to your community, but so many. I mean, Maj is great at that. Devin Perkins is great at that. KD is great at that. Argo J is great at that. Jara is doing that for women. There's a ton of people out there that I've managed to meet over the last several years through Mike, fortunately and thankfully, that have brought my own education knowledge up to a point where I can see the universal applicability of liberty being backstopped by firearms. Eddie's got a question though, and I just wanted to summarize that because I had those thoughts rolling around in my head, and I thought it was really poignant that it's not just the Jewish community; it's many, many communities that fall under those same, I guess, demographic paintings with the commonalities that you mentioned.
Like you kind of fall in the minority with your like pro-gun stance and like the outward vocal stance of it. How did
Mhm.
you fall into this? Like how did you start getting involved in firearms to begin with? If the community is, I wouldn't say like anti-firearm, but maybe not pro-firearm. So how did you first get your first experience and like become who you are?
So my first real experience. So I'd gone shooting a couple times when I was younger, when I went to Israel and stuff like that, a few times. But it was just really lame. Just going to a gun range, maybe taking a few pot shots with counselors when I was in camp, and that was it. My first real exposure was one of my best friends called me one day, and I say he's one of my best friends, but to this day I still make fun of him. I mean, he is one of my best friends. He took me to the range, and it was like right out of a movie. He took like this case and he started unrolling it, and it was like shotgun, rifle, handgun, rifle, shotgun, shotgun, rifle, rifle, and I'm just like, who the are you, right? Like, what the hell? Who are you, dude? And I kind of just got a bug from there. That was way before I even thought about, I mean, I think that was even before I met my wife in like 2008. So 2007, I'm sorry. So it was just like, it was a while before I got really into it. But that was kind of eye opening because I always thought that the only people that were allowed to own guns were police, military, and bad guys, right? Like that was it. Those were the three categories. I didn't realize I was a spoiled little Californian, right? I didn't know anything about the Constitution. I didn't care about the Constitution. Hell, I didn't even know what the Second Amendment was, and all of a sudden I see here's one of my best friends, with like this whole freaking arsenal, and I'm like, what the hell? And that kind of got the bug, got me going. And it's funny because I know Jake and I have talked about this extensively, but before I released my first book, and most people would never even know, before I released my first book, I was so behind the scenes. I hated the limelight. I mean, at my own wedding, where my wife and I sat like on the head table, it was on a platform. I made them take the platform away at my own wedding so that I wouldn't be so center of attention. Like I absolutely hate the limelight. Now, so when I first got my first guns, the only people I talked about it were with my close buddy who had one. Uh, when I moved to Texas 10 years ago, it changed. It was more, or at least 7 years ago when my first book came out, when I forced myself to get over my fear of public speaking and stuff like that. It became, I mean, little by little, it just became a big fu. Like I just don't care. You like me, great. You don't like me, great. And I've lived my life like that probably for the last 4 or 5 years, to the point where I really don't care what the Jewish community thinks about me. I know I'm in the right. I don't care what anyone says. I follow the Old Testament. It says straight out, if someone comes to kill you, you can get up and kill them first. And I'm not going to sit there and say, well, guns are bad. Like, hell no. I love guns, and they will defend me. They will defend my family. And that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of just screw the Jewish community if they have a problem with me, or screw anyone else who has a problem with me. I honestly like live that way now, and it's so liberating.
Yeah, the that's perfect segue for what I was about to ask you. So we've established that the Jewish community mostly could be center left, right? Like from
Well, Orthodox Jews tend to be center right. Reformed and conservative tend to be center left.
Okay, so how? And I know your sense of humor. Like when I first met you, you're like me. Like you're not afraid to make fun of yourself. Like you're a very pleasant person to talk to. Like you really are.
Thank you.
I think the first time I met you was at the NRA show. Is when you were promoting your book, and you came by my booth because Talking Lead, one of our friends in the industry, has a podcast.
Marty.
Yeah, and
Marty. Yeah.
Yeah, Marty. That was the first time like I had actually met you, but I think the first time I saw you speak was at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and that's when we got to hang out and spend a significant amount of time.
Yes.
but during your speech, the way that you were very self-deprecating, like you know, like, so I get it. Your site, and you just said, or your page, you know, you just said, hey, look, I don't care what people think, but at the same time, are you getting a lot of, let's just say like Democrats or liberals that come into your world, and I know you don't care if it turns them off on your view, but sort of on your Instagram, you're up there poking fun at liberals for the things that they do, right? Does it ever affect, does it ever, like, you know what I'm saying? Does somebody ever say like, hey man, like, you know, you ever run into that? Like they're trying to learn from you, and you'd be the guy I would go to. If, you know, if I'm trying to identify with somebody that's like me, if I was Jewish, right, I'd be like, I'm going to the Pew Pew Jew. Like there's no doubt about it. Right. But maybe all these other boxes I check, and you're a conservative, like, does it ever interfere with what you do?
It hasn't really. I mean, I'm sure I've pissed enough people off, but I have a feeling that anyone who truly wants to learn, they're going to get over it. And honestly, I know this is going to sound horrible because I know we all believe the Second Amendment's for everyone. If you are someone that can't take a joke and you are so serious, then go somewhere else and find training. I'm happy to train you, but understand what you're getting, right? There's in my wife, one of my wife's, God, I'm sorry, guys, a teacher in the school that my wife teaches at. She friended me on Facebook. Super Orthodox woman, and I didn't accept her friendship. And I saw her. I dropped something off by my wife, and I saw her, and I said, "Look, here's the deal. I don't know where your politics stand. I'm happy to accept your friendship and you can follow what I do. But be warned, follow me at your own risk." Right? That's what it comes down to. I know that the Second Amendment's for everyone, but at the same time, I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm not going to restrict my feelings and who I am because I might offend or turn someone else off. I think the days of that are over, and I think that if you're not pro-gun yet, and I guess maybe not, but what I was going to say, if you're not pro-gun yet, then it's not really going to happen, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to keep walking on eggshells to make sure that on the possibility I might get someone who tends to be more liberal Jewish wanting me to educate them, that I might offend them because of things I did. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. You get offended. I'm sorry. It's a joke. You know, people with ARs don't get in cattle cars. You know how many people that pissed off? And that still pisses people off daily. But it's just one of the things, like, I'm done walking on eggshells. I remember years ago when I was getting the Pew Pew Jew up and running and I was adding my books to my website, I called a very close mutual friend of ours, someone who I trust with my life. And I asked her, I said, hey, what about putting this book on my website, right? 10 Little Liberals, right? One of my favorite books I've ever written, 10 Little Liberals. I asked her, what about putting that on my website? And she said straight out, don't do it. Don't do it because someone's going to come to your website and, you know, might get turned off because it's not a gun-related book. She said if it was gun-related, do it. But it's not gun-related, don't put it on your book so people can buy signed copies. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's valid advice. It's on my website now, and I do not care if people get offended. It's just, it's come to the point where we just saw a former president of the United States almost get assassinated a week ago. I'm done playing, you know, Mr. Nice Guy and stuff like that. I'm going to call out liberals. I'm going to call out liberal Jews who want to take our gun rights away. And if someone has a problem with that, that's okay with me. You can feel free to go find some other person to train you. I'm okay with that. But I can't keep, you got to make a stand at some point, right? You got to make a stand. And if me turning away left-leaning Jews is, you know, something that happens, so be it.
I'm glad you put that out there. I have a hesitation of my own about using labels, particularly labels with nomenclature attached and definitions that can change. And I know there's been a lot of liberals who have said the left me. And Colin Wright is probably the most famous because he created that little cartoon where the timeline stretches and he's standing there, and the most left people left him basically in what is now the center. And I've rubbed elbows with enough people now to realize that the word liberal is not adequate to describe the people who are anti-freedom.
Right.
And I also appreciate that what you're saying is you don't really care about the sensitivities of those who don't take the time to understand the messaging behind some of the talking points. And I am curious why people with ARs don't get in cattle cards as offensive to people, because I mean, I understand it, but then I read history. So, I mean, maybe it's too close to home. I have no idea. But in my own therapy community, and Eddie could probably attest to this too, is like, we're still tactful and we're still diplomatic. You have the benefit of not having a licensing board to oversee you. And we have to be somewhat careful about how we frame things so that we don't turn people off. But by the same token, I'm also done chasing every demographic under the sun. I can't be all things to all people. And I'm going to stand on, say, firearms rights. It's a fundamental human right to defend yourself. It happens to be enshrined in our Constitution so as not to be violated. But there's people who just don't want to take the effort to, or make the effort to understand that perspective. And for me, that's wild. And there's a whole movement now within the clinical community, nationally and internationally even, that's trying to restore the fundamental practice principles to our profession so that we're not chasing people away who are in the broad swath of the distribution curve of all humans walking the planet who want care, but are afraid that we're going to politically activate them or something. So I really appreciate that you're taking a stand there, and it resonates with me. We don't need to be all things to all people. If the marketplace desires a product or a service, then the marketplace will support it. And if not, then that product or service is going to go away, including a therapist who's overly committed to one particular bent or another. But explain the ARs and cattle cars thing, because I fail to see how that could be so offensive.
It's just one of those things that Jews are way, and this is all Jews, are just way too sensitive. What I will say, and this gets me in.
You mean comparison to the Holocaust is sensitive?
Yeah, and this will God, this gets me into so much trouble every time I say it. It's time to move on from the Holocaust. All right, not forget what happened. Move on. It happened. It was 80 years ago. We get it. We learn from history. Move on. That's it. Simple. Right? Stop holding on to the past and making yourself out to be a victim. Right? I think that's why people get offended, right? Because I have things like people with ARs don't get in cattle cars, and I have this, right? AR macht frei, right? ARs will set you free. You know how much this pissed people off? Oh God, I almost got disowned for that one, right? So it's just one of those things that move on. It's time to move on. The Holocaust happened. We know what an atrocity it was. 6 million of our brothers and sisters were systematically murdered. I get it. But I'm not going to let that define who I am today. My actions of people with ARs don't get in cattle cars are going to define who I am. To the point where my wife and I were talking a few months back, and we had this conversation of, it kind of came up, what do you want written on your tombstone? We've all had that question asked us, I've heard that question. And I told my wife, what I don't want is, I don't want it to say beloved father, beloved husband. She goes, why? And I said, because the only persons in this world that need to know that I was a loving father and a loving husband are you and the kids. I do not care what anyone else thinks about me or how I treated you guys. As long as you guys know I was always there for you, I always had your back, I tried to do what I can to make you guys happy, that's all that matters. I said, what I want written on my tombstone is, arm the Jewish people. That's what I want to be remembered by. That I actually made a difference in the world, not just made a difference to my family. My family knows I'm trying to make a difference in their lives daily. But I want to be remembered as the guy who armed the Jewish people, who made sure that the Jews had a fighting chance in this world we live in. And my wife was like, well, that was deep. And, she's like totally not expecting that. But that's my thing. Is I just don't. People are just way too sensitive nowadays, right? It's like you said, Mike, right? That I'm so self-deprecating. Yeah, I'm self-deprecating because I laugh at myself. I don't take myself seriously. I don't. I know Jake. You've seen my Hitler meme that I sent you, right? Mike, I don't know if I ever sent it to you. I literally have a Hitler meme that I use
No.
to shut down any anti-Semites. If someone is throwing all these anti-Semitic comments at me, it's a picture of Hitler saluting, and it said, "I've had it up. I've had it up to here with your insensitive jokes." Right? Right? Like how did
Right.
right? That's going to piss off a lot of Jews. Me posting that. However, how do you come back from that? Right? It shuts down any anti-Semitic arguments that you have. So I think, like a lot of people out there, Jews will always find something to be complaining about, sensitive about. That's you're making money, you're doing stuff off the backs of the 6 million Jews who died. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not. All right, they died 80 years ago. I'm over it. I'm not going to forget it, and that's why I'm trying to educate people. I might be making money on education, and it might not be the type of education you like, but it's something that I like, and it's something that lots of other people like.
That's one of the things that's changed in the last several years is that you regularly used to remind people, and you still do, that your grandfather died in the Holocaust, and many of your family members did, but you have the numbers of his arm like prominently featured in several posts, as well as some. I think he said he was one of his tasks was pulling gold teeth from dead people.
Bodies. Yep.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like, in my mind, I keep seeing the never again, right? And what you're doing is manifesting never again by arming people to defend themselves no matter what tyranny comes down the line. And that to me sounds like it's a more respectful way to honor what happened in the Holocaust than to keep wringing hands and clutching pearls over it. Am I off on that?
No, that's 100% what I'm doing. Is the best way I can honor my grandfather, the other 60 relatives that I lost, is to ensure that their descendants have a fighting chance, right? I don't think that they would want me to sit around and sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to give my AR-15 in because, gosh darn it, kids are dying in schools. Yeah, it's a rough and harsh critique, but I'm not doing it. They would kick me in the ass if they knew I was going to do something like that because they witnessed the horrors of the Holocaust. So yeah, I'm going to keep on doing it, and if it pisses off people along the way, that's on you, not me.
I want to go back to October for a second because I remember when it happened, and of course I thought about you and how you were feeling, and then I remember we talked, and it was probably like 7 days after or something like that, and I remember you were like, I haven't had a moment to come up for air.
Yeah.
Right? Like you were that busy. And so since then, obviously you've been very busy educating people, or people probably wanted to get involved. Like you said, just how they reacted to, the pro-Hamas celebrations in the United States. Have you had some amazing success stories? Like, have you had some things? Like, what are some of the interesting things that have happened since then, like in terms of like you providing that education?
Yeah, so a couple of my like really favorite things is there are a bunch of couples in the community who I took shooting together, husband and wife who I see at the gun range every time I'm there now, and I'm there often, and they're always there training, and I mean it makes me so happy to see that they didn't buy a gun, take one training course, and think that they're the next John Wick. They are actually continuing their training, and it makes me so happy to see. Another thing that I absolutely love is there's been other people in our community. For example, one of my wife's co-teacher, who is this amazing girl. We love her. She is like Miss I will never do anything exciting in my life because I might get hurt type. And like she called me, she's like, take me shooting. And I took her shooting, and she panicked a little at the beginning, but she ended up having a great time. She wants to go again. She just mentally needs to prepare herself to go again. But I've been getting a lot of that. I took, oh god, this is one of my favorite stories. I took this woman shooting. She had asked me repeatedly to take her shooting, and I said, you just call me, tell me when. finally, I took her and we're at the range, and this woman is just always very outgoing and personable and bubbly and like always has a smile on her face. And we get to the range, and I notice when we get to the range, she's kind of like, her eyes are darting around. She's on her head is on a crazy swivel. And I'm like, hey, are you okay? She goes, I am absolutely terrified right now. I said, okay. I said, that's very normal. She goes on to tell me that she lost a cousin in the Stone Mary Douglas shooting. And she was vehemently against guns for a long time, but she's incredibly pro-Israel, and she sees what's happening, and what's happening in America woke her up. So she's like, I want to do it, but I'm just so scared. So I said, we're going to walk you through step by step. You have nothing to worry about. I put the guns in her hands. We talk about it. We talk about what to expect, all these different things. And we get on the firing line, and she gets one shot off. She puts the gun down, takes 3 steps back, and I'm not lying to you, she bursts into tears. I'm talking about Niagara Falls, just flooding. And as guys, we always hate when our wives cry because we don't know what the hell to do. And this is not my wife. This is somebody else's wife who's now bawling in front of me. So now I have to be incredibly tactful, right? Like, I want her to keep on shooting, but, don't just say cowboy up, right? So I kind of like, she's sobbing for 2-3 minutes. I'm like, okay, let's take a step out. We take a step out. She takes the earmuffs off, glasses off, kind of hyperventilating. I help her catch her breath. And this is when she tells me that, she lost a relative and all. And I said, what you're experiencing now is years of, I guess, resentment because of what you saw happen to your family. But on top of that, it's a gun, right? It's terrifying. That emotional buildup before you've shot your first shot before is crazy. So that release when you shoot that first round could be, incredibly, I guess, stress relieving, and just, I don't even know the right word. You guys are all smarter than I am, right? Like, it just lets out all that pressure. So she calms down, and I said, okay, what are we doing? She goes, I don't know. I said, okay, I do know. Come with me. I make her put her goggles back on, her ears on, and I put a round in the gun. I said, do it again. And she looked at me, was like, are you out of your effing mind? Like, did you not pay attention? I said, do it again. And she did it again. And she's like, okay, that one wasn't so bad. I said, do it again. I think I did it 10 times, only put one round in the mag. And after 10 rounds, she was just like, I just hit the bullseye. I said, yes, you did. I filled up the mag, all 15 rounds, and I'm not lying to you, freaking Annie Oakley. I mean, she was just dead on with every shot. She listened to the commands, and afterwards, she goes, I cannot wait to do this again. And to me, that's probably my favorite story of taking someone shooting, who just was all messed up about guns, and then, it all just snapped. It was awesome.
Go ahead, Daddy.
Kevin he's not on the screen, but he's moderating all this, and he just said something about this, and it brought up the same memory that I've heard similar stories like this, like with the Black Bottom Gun Club. Like, they've had the same experience. Someone who's never shot a gun before, their first time going through, just bawling, and just this like emotional experience. And like, it's kind of telling in a sense that when people get this chance to do these things, that like this is like an emotional outpouring, because it's like, they don't know what to feel. It's cool to hear these stories. I don't really know. I don't have a point to make. It's just saying it's just cool to hear these stories.
The word for that, by the way, is cathartic. So if you have a catharsis, it's a release of emotional energy, and the antithesis to a catharsis is a cathexis. It's stuck emotional energy that builds up over time. We call it bottling up, stuffing down, whatever. The result is the same. When you release it, you get an emotional release. It's called a catharsis.
That's exactly what it was. But I will tell you, actually, just one more quick story. Another one of my favorite taking someone to the gun range was we were by my friend's house. It was on our Sabbath. We were having lunch there, and another couple who was there had their 13-year-old niece with them. And I ended up on the couch talking to their niece, the 13-year-old girl who was so freaking smart and so politically savvy. It was one of the best conversations I've had in years. This girl was hilarious and just super fun. And she found out that what I do for a living in my whole brand. And she said, "Can you take me shooting?" I said, "You are a 13-year-old girl. If you can get your parents to approve, I will gladly take you shooting." I took this girl shooting. Her uncle came. One of my close friend came. So it was the three of us. This girl's first time shooting, she went from a 22 to a suppressed 9mm to a full auto Uzi. And this girl had the best time of her life. She could not, she's like, "I'm moving to Texas when I'm 18 just so I can go shooting every day." It was this cute little 13-year-old girl. I'm like, "You're awesome." I'm like, "Look, I've got a 13-year-old son. If you want to marry him, absolutely. I'll buy you all the guns you want."
That's awesome. If anybody's interested and you haven't seen it, we have a documentary done by a gal named Connie Ray. She's a local here in the Northern Nevada community, and she has a similar story. I'm not going to spoil it, but the documentary is available on our website, or if you go to her YouTube channel called The Next Stage, you can type in Walk the Talk America Next Stage, and it'll pop up on YouTube. And you can watch Connie's walkthrough. It's about 30 minutes long. It's really, really worth it, I think. Did you just say that you go shooting on your Sabbath?
No.
Allowed?
She asked me on the Sabbath if we can go
gotcha.
shooting. Yeah, we were having lunch, and yeah.
I want to hover for a moment on that topic. Actually, no, I want to come back to it because I want to hear a little bit more about your or your adherence to Orthodox Judaism. But we've already established that you're edgy, right? And I think that's a good thing. And I think that our culture these days of being overly coddled in many ways has provided us the opportunity to resist learning new things, branching out, experiencing uncomfortable situations, expanding our own awareness. We're just not up for it these days. It's usually not necessary. We like everything bubble wrapped and presented in a nice, polite fashion. And that's not to say anything of the trigger warnings and all the stuff that goes on college campuses now to protect the intellect and prevent growth. I just went to your website because I wanted to see about the training. You don't have training listed on there, but the first thing is a pop-up overlay that says, sign up for our newsletter or, opt out. And it says, "No, I turn in my neighbors."
Yeah, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, it says sign up for the new newsletter. It says, "Yes, I support freedom," or "No, I report my neighbors."
Yeah, absolutely hilarious, but edgy, right? And I think some of this edginess is getting you into a little bit of trouble. And you and I've talked about this before, but Eddie had something to go along with that. We were private messaging each other, and I want Eddie to ask his question
along those lines. Have you been finding with like social media and any of your YouTube channels or just anything, like have you been getting throttled or your content being hit hard? I know a lot of my friends have like either various gun makers or gun companies themselves, or even just like a friend of mine works for an optic company and they get throttled and all they do, like, it's just optics. So with yourself, what have you been finding yourself? Is it like a constant struggle to stay relevant, or are you shadow banned yet, or just curious what's your experience?
Let's just say
he's holding something to the screen that looks like a graphic of users.
That says, basically, it's a user interaction graph.
Yes, of basically everything is below the negative. If between so I have 48,200 followers. As of 2 months ago, I was at 48,800, but I'm slowly bleeding followers. I don't know why. But if you want to look, let's call it in the last, today is what? Today is, we'll call it from May 22nd until today. So May 22nd to July 1st, I have reached 78,000 followers, 433. I have just under 50,000 followers. but I've only reached 78,000. So if
in 2 months.
you pay in 2 months, that's nothing. I mean, that's
So what are you used to getting? What's a 2-month period from, say, a year ago? What are you normally expecting to see?
I was getting anywhere from 750 to 1 million.
And that's like impressions with your content.
Impressions with my content. I am so heavily shadow banned to the point where, I mean, if you look at my last post on Facebook, literally I posted it yesterday. Now it got 1,400 followers, 1,400 likes, but it says, social media has killed my main source of revenue. I'm looking for extra work, preferably in the gun world. Let me know if you hear something. Like, I'm actually looking for other work now because I'm not getting rid of the Pew Pew Jew brand. However, in the last 6 months, I probably made about $4,000, not even in 6 months. I can't make money anymore because any post that I post, it's take it down or get kicked off for good. So I posted and I'm say that again.
Are other people experiencing this?
There's other people experiencing this. Yeah, I'm not the only one. It's funny. Everyone was like, "Cowboy up, you're not the only one." I'm like, I didn't say I was the only one. I'm just saying that I'm done messing with it and I would like some work. Someone was like, "Well, you're a social media influencer. It shouldn't be hard." I'm like, do you think I make my money being
saw that.
Yeah, I'm like, do you think I make money being a social media influencer? Like, I wish I were that big. I might have some influence, but hell, I have all my money locked up in my website. People can buy my books, buy my t-shirts. That's where my money is. And if I can't advertise, then guess what? I can't make money. So luckily, I've had some really amazing job opportunities come my way already in the last 24 hours. Some of them are outside of the firearms industry, but political related. Some of them, one of them, I have a meeting later this week, which is actually pretty cool. It actually is social media influencing. There's a company that does credit card processing that is like devoted strictly to two-way people. So if you're a brand or a company that you're worried about credit cards screwing you over, this company is not that company. So they want me to actually become like a spokesperson for them, and they'll pay me to become a spokesperson. So actual social media influencing. So I'm stoked about that because that'll be fun to do. But no, I'm definitely heavily shadow banned. I'm definitely it's not easy. I know X isn't perfect, but God, I posted something the other day. It was like, here is, like, I do a lot of affiliate marketing. I'm like, here's literally a $2,000 gun on sale for $800, and I posted that on Twitter, and nothing. No, they just kept it up. I didn't get any warnings. I didn't get it taken down, and it's again. I know X isn't perfect, but it's definitely a hell of a lot better. Yeah, definitely a lot better than Instagram right now. Now, I also think that Instagram is being a bunch of little whatever bitches because it also is election season, and it's always much worse during election season. So I'm really hoping that whoever wins in November, they'll kind of ease up a little and then open it up a little. So
You say that, but I don't actually buy that because like Meta owns Instagram and everything, and right now if you have a Facebook account, your entire feed is just like AI random generated stuff of why don't these pictures ever get follows, whatever, and they're all bot accounts or troll accounts, whatever, they'll flip over on stuff, but like that's basically 90% of my feed because they pay money. So like I don't really
right,
buy the
play.
fact that but it's
well,
what they're doing is they're targeting one thing.
Right. So I'm not talking about the pay to play aspect. I'm just talking about the able to grow. I remember in 2020, I saw our fantastic producer in the background nodding his head. I know in 2020 the same thing happened. Like the election year was it was one of the worst years I've ever seen. And then the minute elections were over, it's kind of like they're like, okay, we're going to ease back the throttle. We're going to let people grow. We're still going to target them with crap, but we're going to at least let them grow a little more. Now, again, we're in 2024. Last election was 4 years ago. A lot could have changed. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out after the elections. But it is around election year. It is always significantly harder to grow because they don't want you to post the truth out there.
Yeah, it's almost like there's big people with big money invested in certain outcomes, and they're trying to steer that. Weird. You can't see Kevin, and he is nodding. He posted. He says, "I got an ad for a cheeseburger shot down for being political last election." It was 2 years ago, I guess. It's a cheeseburger, right? And he also made the point, and I thought this too when you were talking about the payment processing thing. That's a big deal because I know that Mike had some struggles even getting somebody to operate on our website for some of our donations. So getting a pro-freedom, liberty-oriented processor for credit card payments is a big deal, but also banks too. Banks aren't necessarily interested if they've given over the woke DEI mind virus or whatever, that they want to get into bed with somebody who's pro-freedom, pro-free speech, pro-liberty. And so that's not to say anything of the pressures actually applied by the government.
Well, I do know the bank that this company uses is and I looked into it a little, are actually very pro-gun. So it's I have a meeting with them. I'm not saying the name of the company yet because again, nothing is set in stone, and I don't know for sure. But from what it seems like it's a really good opportunity. And if they want to influence or to help push their brand, and they'll pay me to do it, then I'm good.
What about the post that you had where you said somebody contacted you want to make a short film of one of your books?
Oh God! So, I think it's all BS. I mean, it's a real website, it's a real company apparently, but they called me and they're like, I got a phone call randomly. Like, I don't even know how they got my number. But they called me and they're like, oh yeah, we would love to make a film out of one of your books. I'm like, oh, we love your book Safety On. We want to make a short film, a film out of it. I said, my book has like 200 words in the whole book, and it's a kid's book on gun safety. Yes, it would be a short film. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, unfortunately, that book is all tied up with a publisher, so we would have to go through the publisher. I said, I do have other books that you could do also. I'm like, he's like, oh, really? Which books? I'm like, it's called 27 Words. God, what's the subtitle of my own book? A Children's Guide to the Second Amendment. And he's like, oh, we can do that one. And I'm like, okay, well, go look at the link. Send me the paperwork, and I'll look into it. And then that's why I wrote at the end, Mike. I wrote, I'm not holding my breath, right?
Hold breath.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't think this seems like such a scam on so many levels. But I sent it to someone who is an investigative reporter. I'm like, do me a favor and just let me know. If you say yes, I'll do it. If you say no, I won't do it. So they're looking into the company now.
I think it's funny. They said they do a short film on a book with 200 words, and then you offered them one with 27 words.
Well, the best is everyone's commenting. They're like, oh, did they pick bullet points?
Bullet points,
That's going to be a very short film.
That's awesome. I want to turn back to Judaism and practicing, because I'm very impressed with how you do that, and I think that you and I've talked about this too in the past. There's a lot of the tenets that you embrace, specifically pertaining to the Sabbath, but also with your marriage and how you engage with your wife, and I think that they're generally applicable if you want to live a good life, but the adherence is very, very, very challenging, like life-alteringly challenging. And I want to ask you about that, because I thought, man, getting off of technology for, sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday sounds pretty appetizing. And you were like, you got to remember that, you still got to get to baseball practice somehow. And if you're driving a car, that doesn't count. I was like, oh,
right.
It's really rough. So talk a little bit about that. Educate our audience on what Orthodox Judaism is and what it looks like in your practical life.
So in my practical life, what you're talking about is our Sabbath. So Friday night sundown till Saturday night sundown, probably around 25 hours. You can't do a damn thing. And what I mean by that is you can't have electronics on. There's no TV There's no phones. There's no computers. There's no movies. If you want the light on, you either have to have it on a timer, which is set before the Sabbath starts, or you got to leave the light on for 25 hours. If my wife wants to warm up food on our Sabbath after synagogue on Saturday, my wife has like a hot plate with a timer connected to it that she sets before the Sabbath. But it's nice. I look forward to Friday nights because Friday nights, my 3-year-old goes totally apeshit. Just, I mean, he like the adrenaline pumping, like he just becomes like a supersonic ball of energy. And the best part
Only one day a week for a
he's like
3-year-old,
that.
really?
He's like that all the time. But here's the thing, right? Friday nights, there's no electronics. He's 3 years old and he knows he can't watch any of his iPad. He can't, we don't even own a TV, but, we can't turn on a computer. We can't watch anything. We can't put music on. So he just gets this ball of energy because he has no other place. He can't calm himself down. So he's got to wear himself out. So, it's fun because I'm sitting on the floor and I'm wrestling with my kids and I'm playing with them. But never once am I stopping to look at a phone, a text message, an email, X to see, who was shot, who wasn't shot today. Like, it's just nonstop disconnecting from the real world. And there's something so mentally healthy about it that it's amazing.
I think there's a lesson in there that we could probably put these safeguards in place for ourselves without going, full blown gas heating of the. Can you use gas? Use gas to heat food? Or is it like a work thing? You don't work.
You don't work.
Right. So preparing food would be considered work. It's less about the fire than it is the activity. That's why you can't flip off a light.
Well, the idea of fire also, you can't start a fire, so that's considered. A lot of the laws on our Sabbath is based on the different tasks that they had in the Temple Mount, 3,000 years ago. A lot of that kind of stuff kind of translates over. So like on Saturday, they stopped working in the Temple Mount for a day to rest. So that's why we kind of do it. So a lot of the things they did, we're not allowed to do. So obviously they didn't have light switches, but it's the idea of lighting a fire and stuff like that. But it's great because like we this past Saturday, we ended up having like 10 couples come over with all their kids, and my house was a disaster. But like everyone was just playing, having a good time. There was just conversations going. There was no phones ringing, no TVs blaring. It was just like you're just having a conversation with people, and it's fantastic.
On the same line, because you mentioned it before about self-defense, and this is a guns and mental health podcast. Explain the sixth commandment says thou shalt not murder, and that's been construed to mean thou shalt not kill, and there's certain overly rigid interpretations of like, well, everyone should be vegans and vegetarians because the taking of a life is prohibited by God, and those are overly rigid interpretations I think are uneducated. But you elevated my knowledge by your explanation of that too. Why don't you take that for a minute and run with it?
Absolutely. So the original word in the Old Testament, and again, for all the viewers or listeners out there, when you hear me say the Bible, I am talking about the Old Testament because I'm an Orthodox Jew. We don't adhere to any laws or commandments from the New Testament. So not a knock on you guys, it's just a religion. But when we follow the Bible in the Old Testament, the word that in the Ten Commandments is lo tirtzach. And the word lo means no, and tirtzach translates to murder. So really, nowhere in the Bible does it say thou shalt not kill. Because it even says I think it's in Leviticus, where I forgot which part, but it says, if someone comes up and tries to kill you, you can kill them first, right? Well, wouldn't that just prove the Bible wrong because it's contradicting each other? So no, it's the idea of also the Bible says you're allowed to kill animals. You are allowed to slaughter an animal for food. So like, again, if you're not allowed to kill, why would you be allowed to kill an animal? So again, nowhere in the Old Testament does it say thou shalt not kill. I looked into this recently. I was talking to one of my rabbis, and we looked into it. And what the difference is, there's the word laharog, which means to kill, and tirtzach means murder. But what tirtzach really translates to is killing was it killing not intentionally, basically like killing with malice. In other words, murder. Right? So anyone who says that, oh, the Bible says thou shalt not kill, I'm like, where? It's like, it's one of the 10 Commandments. I'm like, which one? 6. I'm like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. So, that's always a fun argument and conversation to have with people.
And then what's Psalm 144? Why is that so important?
Psalm 144 is the warrior's prayer. That one is fantastic because that one is, blessed the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for battle, my fingers for war. I know there's a lot of people in the U.S. military who uses it. They call it the warrior's prayer. Psalms was written, I believe by, is Psalms the one written by King David? I think so. God, I'm a horrible Jew. So we own that one, but that's become a warrior's prayer and something that I definitely believe in, because we always say if we ever have to pull out our gun and use it, let our aim be true, right? So it's really the same thing. Really is the exact same thing, just biblical.
What commandments? Because there's something like 614 commandments if you take both testaments together. But what commandments or instructions or parameters are there that say go try to make peace first, and don't just go to war with everybody because you're offended by them, or that you perceive that they're attacking you? How do you live in that balance?
Well, there's no commandment that really says you need to make peace. It's really, so there's 613, and really the 613 are how it breaks down. It's okay. I wasn't doing it to correct you really, but but since you said it, there's 613. Basically, there are positive commandments and negative commandments. And the negative commandments aren't necessarily negative. It's like, thou shalt not murder, right? That's a negative commandment. But it's still one, it still falls into the line of one of the 613. Whereas a positive commandment would be, thou shalt love your father and mother, right? So that's so there's no like negative, it's not like negative. It's in terms of, it's a bad commandment, but you still have to do it. It's more of a negative connotation. But there's nowhere that really says, you should always try to make peace, right? There's stories about the high priest Aaron, right? Moses' brother, who he was a man of peace, because what he would do is, if two parties were, I don't want to say at war, but let's say had major beef with each other, he would go to one party and say, he really wants to apologize and make up to you. And he would go to the other party and say, hey, he really wants to apologize and make up with you. And he would bring peace between people. But in terms of actual like war and battle, again, it says straight out, if someone comes to kill you, you can rise up and kill them first. So, that's literally in the Old Testament. So, Judaism is a warrior heritage nation. We are a war-fearing nation. We are not war-fearing. We are not war-making. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are going to be like, yeah, well, the IDF. Yeah, shut up. But, yeah. No,
defense is not aggression, though.
Right, exactly.
You can have a policy of non-aggression and still be defensive when attacked. And where I'm kind of going with that is not just with the 2A community writ large, and of course the defense against tyranny and overreach, but it's like, how do we as religious people find a guiding light or a guidepost that says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, follow all the laws, while also saying, well, here's the line. We're not letting you cross here. Because what happened we'll go back to the Holocaust. Like, a lot of people just rolled over. They didn't buck up and push back. And I think we're seeing that now in today's society, where it's like, oh, let the protesters just be violent. Like, no, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. So I don't know what. I don't know. Feel free to chime in, guys. So it's not just the Yehuda and Jake show, but where do we get our are bright line rules on saying, no, absolutely not. Beyond this line, you shall not cross. And here's why. Not just because I feel like it, not just because I'm personally offended at somebody's political stance on campus, but like, when is violence okay? It's probably in response to violence. But now we've got this euphemism treadmill and vocabulary erosion going on in all of culture. It's, words are violence, therefore I can punch you because you said something I don't like. It's like that's not right either. I'd like to see something in scripture or at least ethic or code that would guide that interaction. Dead silence.
I was giving someone else a chance. I was giving someone else a chance.
No, but Jake, words can have consequences, and I don't believe I'm with you on that. Like, I'm a big believer that you shouldn't respond with word. You should respond with words if someone's using words to cut you down. But we all know that doesn't always work out, right? So sometimes your mouth runs, not yours personally,
never,
but
you were right.
People run their mouths, and don't realize the consequences that might happen. I mean, where I grew up, if you said something, there could be some consequences, right? Like, and that usually met with some force, especially if you went deep on somebody.
Yeah, usually not without warning. Right. Yeah. I mean, we give people chances and we give them. That's what we do with parenting. Hopefully, we're not just dropping negative consequences on our children. We're pre-teaching them that, hey, if this, then this. Right. We don't come off the top rope and drop an elbow on your kid because he, spilled the milk. You go, hey, be careful. There's milk there. And then if he spills, you go, I told you there was milk there. Right. Eddie.
This is kind of going into it. Like, we know that not all the Jewish community is like pro fire and stuff like that. But what about just pro self defense? Like, is it like, I know this is a New Testament command, so like, forgive me for saying this, but I grew up Southern Baptist. No. We were just preached the New Testament. Like, when Jesus said turn your other cheek, there has to be something in the Old Testament. Is that something like just preached to like people in your community that like you can't defend yourself, you have to turn your other cheek?
No, we don't have anything like that. No, we don't.
How did it get to where it is then?
Don't get me started. No, honestly, I don't know. Whoever wrote the New Testament, obviously, we don't agree with what they wrote, but we don't believe in turning the other cheek, right? Now, we don't have anything necessarily that says it, but we also don't believe like if my buddy says you're a scumbag cheap Jew, right? I'm not gonna sit there and like, all right, dude, let's go, you and me right now, like. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm definitely not a scumbag, but I definitely am cheap. Like, yeah, that the stereotype is real, right? So, like,
there he is. There
right,
he is.
Right? I'll cop out to that. So, but no, the idea is we don't have you have to turn the other cheek. Now, we also are adults, right? Like, check the ego, right? We're all somewhat in the firearms industry. Check your ego at the door, right? My ego is not that big that if someone insults me, I'm going to immediately like get to the point where I would have to turn the other cheek. Like, no, I'm not going to take crap from somebody, but at the same time, I'm man enough to know when to walk away, right? Firearms are only supposed to be pulled out of your holster if your life is literally in danger. I get people calling me names all the time. Hell, I had people in my own community call me every name under the book because I was the crazy gun nut.
You got called a Nazi online. I saw it.
Oh, numerous times. That's my favorite. You're such a right-wing Nazi. I've had it up to here with your insensitive jokes. No, so it's just one of those things that, I'm not going to turn the other cheek. I mean, I'm always going to turn the other cheek unless, God forbid, something can very badly happen, I tell my wife this all the time. She's like, so-and-so said this about this person. I'm like, who cares? She's like, well, it affects us. I'm like, how does it affect us? Does it affect us or does it just piss you off? She goes, it just pisses me off. I'm like, okay, get over it. And she's like, I hate when you do this. I'm like, yeah, but get over it. Who cares? I'm like, it's not affecting you. And even if it does affect you a little, I said, is it worth getting all worked up? And she's like, no, but still. I'm like, but still what? Like, I'm so easygoing unless you will actually hurt my business or hurt my persons, then I just don't care. I just don't care. Like, you're not going to get under my skin. There was a guy in my community, a Jewish guy who's also a firearms instructor. who was telling people not to use me because I am not certified. I'm not a certified instructor. Like I don't have NRA credentials or USCCA credentials. And he was telling people not to use me. And my wife got pissed off. Like, I don't care. I don't care. He wants to say stuff like that. That's great. If people want to come and use me, they know where they can find me. I just don't care. It's not hurting the bottom line. It's not hurting my person. It's not holding me back. There are so many other things in this world that I worry about. What someone says about me is not something I worry about. The only people in this world that I have to ensure that they're happy with me, again, are my wife and kids. That's it. Everyone else, don't care. I honestly don't care. You know, Jake, I love you. Mike, I love you. Eddie, I just met you, but I love you too, brother. But I'm saying, Jake, you and I, Mike, you and I, we go back a while, 7 years almost, you and me, Mike. Would I do anything to piss you off intentionally? No. But if you have a problem with me, I would expect you either to confront me. But I don't think you, I mean, you and I have some serious history, Mike, because we both know something that happened in our little group. But, you know, talk it out. And if there's something that you would disagree with me about, I know you're not going to hate me. I know it's not going to affect me. And I'm not, and you're like, okay, he has a difference of opinion. Who cares? That's what makes the world go round, is that people have differences of opinion. And that's the way I live my life. And I'll tell you something. Living your life this way makes me not have to drink as much. It's fantastic.
I don't know what that means, but I would love to drink more. Speaking of drinking, now you're producer Kevin, an elite guru of marketing things. He dropped in here wondering how you develop that, and I want to paint a little context of my own, but I want to do it because one of our observers, Tovis Brasberg, says, I don't think turning the cheek means the same thing as letting stuff go. And he quotes the scripture, says, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you, take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. My understanding of that is it's in the spirit of yield theory, really. And we can drink because it's a Christian Conti reference, and this is a Christian Conti drinking game. But what it's saying is that all things are provided by God, and the things that are given to you are not yours to keep. So if somebody really wants to come after you, go ahead and give it all to them. Lean into it. Don't fight, because then you just create a beef and a power struggle, and it wears out everybody. My understanding of that is, don't be so attached to your resources or even to your own fleshly body that you're not willing to sacrifice it for the Lord God. Okay, that's my take. We can debate it if we want, but it's to frame this, which is to say that in my experience, my personal experience, it took me years to get to the point where I am, where you are now, Yehuda, which is, I don't really care what people outside my tribe say, but it also took me years to develop the emotional understanding that the shame and guilt mechanism in our brains is designed to respond to our tribes, because we don't want to get kicked out of our tribes, because we want to survive. We need our tribes to survive. But what's happened in recent years is that it looks to the brain like everybody with a nasty comment is in your tribe, and you must appease them all lest you get booted from the tribe. And that's not true. Our tribes are not supposed to be thousands or hundreds even. Definitely not millions. It's more like dozens. And so whether that's family, inner circle of friends, whatever it is, we want to honor those people who give us constructive criticism and feedback. And we don't really necessarily need to care about what the outsiders have to say, especially if their opinions are ignorant or uninformed or purposely malicious or whatever. So I got there through constant supervision, constant insight and awareness, pinging things off my wife, my pastors, my best friends, trusted advisors. How did you get there? Because certainly in the beginning, it couldn't have been easy. And that's Kevin's point, is like, how it could not have been easy seeing all the nastiness and vitriol. How did you get there? Or did it predate, your presence in the world online?
So I grew up a normal household, except my mom is one of the most unaffectionate people I've ever known in my life. I don't remember the last time my mom hugged or kissed me. And my dad is the complete opposite. He is so overbearing and neurotic and paranoid that I only found this out in the last year, that when I got my license at 16, my father followed me around, literally tailed me for 4 months. Right? So like I have been fighting this total, polar opposite upbringing my entire life. And around 14 years old, I said to myself, like, this is not normal. This is not a way to live. And it was that moment that everything began to change. Now, again, I'm 40 now, so it's been 26 years. However, obviously it didn't happen overnight. I think the real beginning started when I was in high school. I was a huge Sacramento Kings fan. Sorry, that was Satan. He came to say hi. I'm sorry, my 3-year-old. So hi,
Just a big ball of loving energy.
big ball of loving energy.
Demonic energy.
Oh God,
Baby
I love
Jack
him.
Jack.
Oh God, I wish. So basically, I was a huge Sacramento Kings fan when this was, during the Kobe Shaq era, and I'll never forget. It was Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, where Robert Horry hit the game-winning shot to send the Lakers into the championship. And I was watching the game with my older brother and some of my friends, and they were brutal to me. We're talking about brutal and nasty, making fun of me that, oh, your team lost, you suck, oh, so much for being a Kings fan, but and it really made me feel like the world's biggest piece of crap. And I know for a few days it was really bothering me that they lost. And then it hit me. I was like, who cares? And I was 17. Who cares? It is a freaking sports game. Whether my team that I like wins or loses should not make me feel this depressed. It shouldn't. There's no reason. And this is I came to all this, on my own realization. I'm like, it should not be making me feel this way. I started growing this repellent shell around me, where one thing led to another, and then as I was losing my hair, people kept, one of my rabbis and some of my friends were always making fun of me. Oh, you're going bald. You're going bald. Oh, we can see the reflection off your forehead. And it really bothered me. And it really bothered me until one day I just said, you know what? Fuck it. And I literally, my friend was about to say something. I'm like, yeah, I know you're blind now because my forehead's so bald, right? I'm like, yeah, dude, get some new material because you're boring me. And little by little, my persona started changing to the point where by the time I got onto social media and started building my brand, yeah, I got so much hate, and I still get hate, but it's now either, haha, that's funny. One of them, and I'll tell you a great example. I posted a meme of Robert Duvall from God. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. And
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now. Thank you. And some just jackass dude just like comes onto the post and says, "Oh, hold on, my laptop's about to die."
Oh no.
No. So some like jackass of a dude just comes into the comments and said, "I love the smell of Zyklon B in the morning."
I remember seeing that actually.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, holy crap, that's funny. That's actually, I've never heard that one before. So I commented back onto the guy. I'm like, dude, thank you so much for that comment. That is the first Holocaust joke like that I have ever heard. That's original. That was great. And the guy disappeared. I mean, he deleted his comment. And,
Of course.
right, he deleted his comment because he's like, I thought I was messed up. This Jew's more effed up than I thought, right? And it was fantastic because since then, it's just become the more criticism I got from the outside world telling me how bad of a person I am, the more I realized I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. And probably about 4 years ago, it just came to the realization, screw everybody else. I know who I am. I know the type of person I am. And the people that I care about, the people who know me, who I can call friends, know who I am too. They know what they're getting with me. They know that, if I'm with Mike, I'm going to make an Italian joke to his face because I don't care if it offends him. It's funny. And he knows that. And he'll make a Jew joke to my face. And I realized, I'm like, how amazing is it to be able to be around people and you can poke fun and make fun of them and they'll do the same thing to you, and then you're going to go have a beer. Why? Because you're not doing it out of a malicious intent. It's so freeing to be able to just, hey, I have a really funny line and I'm going to say it, and I know I'm going to say it to Mike, and I know he's not going to get offended because he's going to think it's funny, but then be prepared. Don't get offended if he throws a Jew joke at you, right? Like there was a whole thought process that went through my mind, and now it's just one of those things that I'm incredibly self-deprecating. I am who I am, and it's just, if you like me, fantastic. If you don't like me, I already have my tribe, as you said, Jake. I have my core group of friends. I don't need more. I am very happy with what I have in my life. Now, if more friends come to be part of my group who have the same like-minded, humor and self-deprecation and ability to poke fun at each other, but still willing to go to the ends of the world and fight to the death alongside me, then hey, I'll grow my circle. But it's just, I just don't I just don't care anymore.
You've developed your own character, and I think that's really inspiring. You've become B Rabbit from 8 Mile.
Yeah, it's an 8 Mile reference. Look at that.
Give them everything so that they don't have anything on you. But the only person who can truly do that is the person who knows himself or herself so well that they can just offer it, right? And that takes a lot of self-examination and courage. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, of course. Like I said, it's just one of the things that I know who I am. I know I'm not a bad guy, and I know, like, there's this one friend of mine who works at this office, and he introduced me to this black guy. And this black guy is great. He's such guy is awesome. And
we're getting so canceled this podcast. I could feel it coming.
No, so
we've mocked the Holocaust. Now we're getting into race jokes.
No, so it was funny because my friend told this guy, he's like, look, this guy explaining, I'm the friend that everyone has to explain to new people about, right? He's like, if you have a sense of humor and you let things roll off your back, you will absolutely love this guy. If you get offended easily, you're going to hate him. The guy's like, no, I don't get offended easily. So me and this black guy, we just absolutely clicked. Like, we just hit it off. And he's not in the gun industry. And I was at a gun show, and someone had these beautiful leather wallets. And one of the wallets was this beautiful, like, Winn-Dixie wallet. So, like, I took a picture of the wallet, and I sent it to this guy. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of you. And he just, like, he's like, dude, I'm laughing so hard right now, but that was so inappropriate. But I'm laughing hard. And I'm like, right? Like those are the people I want to be around. I want to be around the people that can take a joke, that knows that, hell, I would go to battle for this guy also. And when you surround yourself with those type of people, oh man, there's nothing like it. It's such a sense of liberation and being so free to be yourself. And I love it.
People that maybe like not getting into heaven.
What?
The people that may be getting that confused is he's not saying that like it's okay to shit on people and like just be this racist anti-Semitic asshole. He's saying though that like if you like you can have a sense of humor, you can have people around you, you can make this these off-color jokes, but like it's with people that are like that. It is the like it's gotta say it's like me making the Jew joke towards him, like but we're bros, we're having fun back and forth. That's what he's saying. It's saying it's that release of just having fun, not just being edgy to be edgy.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like I love when all these comedians get up there and they do these stand-ups and they make fun of Jews. I'm like, that's freaking funny. Like, I just don't care. Like, he's making fun of everybody. Is he anti-Semitic? Well, he might be, but he's apparently anti everybody, right? That's why I still think South Park is one of those brilliant shows. I don't know if you watched the Ozempic episode, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I saw
that was, I mean, pure brilliance, like brilliant. It just, I don't know. I just don't care what people think about me. Like I said, the only people I have to worry about are my wife and kids. That's it. No one else. Everyone else comes a very distant second.
So I know we're kind of up against it with time, but I want to share a story, and this person's going to kill me for it. But this is a story of love. Like, this is a really, really cool story. My friend Armando Garcia, on Instagram, he's TicTac702, right? And one day he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, I gotta, you still talk to the Pew Pew Jew, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "I gotta come over and give you something to send to him. I don't want to bother him." And he certainly did not want any credit for doing this for you. And Armando's the type of guy, like I tell people all the time, like he will do anything for his friends or people that he respects. Like if I said to my Armando, "I need you to pick up my daughter today and drive her to Philly to get her a cheesesteak, like, and protect her,"
He'll do
he's
it.
that
Yeah.
guy. Like he's that guy that I trust, right? Like and so he comes over to my house and I hope you queued it up.
Dude.
And he gives me one of the dopest gifts I've ever seen, and he goes, "Send this to him." I said, "Do you know him?" He's like, "Oh, just from Instagram, right?"
It's literally, it's a ninja star.
Yeah,
If you see how I'm
Yehuda's showing
holding
it on
it-
screen. It's great. What is
Yeah,
that, aluminum? Stainless steel?
It looks like stainless steel, but it's literally a Pew Pew Jew ninja star that looks like the Star of David. Like, I'm holding it like this because the edges are super sharp. So yeah,
That's awesome.
God, I knew exactly where it was. I had it right there.
I couldn't. When he came over, it was such an odd moment, and he's like that because he did not tell me he was going to do that. He did not like prep me for that. I didn't even know that he followed you. I know he's a big gun guy, so I assume like it's all overlap, right? But I thought that was the funniest thing because I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Like, what?
Oh, I love it.
No, it's awesome. It was awesome. But everybody loves you, man. Trust me. The only people that count love you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and the work you're doing for your community is really awesome. I know that I've had some friends overlap who are Jewish friends who overlap and have discovered you and are very appreciative of your voice. And they may be self-censoring for whatever reason, or they may be trying to find their voice. So just know that the work you're doing is really, really incredible. And that's why we like having you, because you're out there, you're doing the work, right? And it's valuable, and I think we need refreshing conversations like this one that are honest and transparent and vulnerable. And yeah, they're fun and they're funny, but the work is very serious, even though we don't take ourselves very seriously, as I like to say. And people are benefiting from it, and I'm super glad that I have you in my life, and I'm glad we became friends. So
yeah, thank you. Well, if anyone is going to be at any of your listeners are going to be at Goals at the Gun Owners of America conference next month, definitely look me up. I'll be there.
Awesome. I don't remember what your answer was the first time you came around, so Mike's going to ask his question again, and we're going to see what you say, and then Kevin will probably pull those and compare them.
Yehuda, how do you tend to your mental health these days?
A lot of drinking. No.
Cheers.
How do I tend?
There's that humor.
Honestly, these days, I think it really comes down to. I know this is going to sound so bad, and I have how many therapists here? 2 therapists here. I think I just suppress it as far down as possible and just cowboy up. And hey, you know what? Life sucks so many times. Bidenomics makes everything harder. The world is not a kind place, but I surround myself with good people. If I need to talk, there's always people out there who will listen, but more often than not, you just cowboy up and push on. Luckily I have a loving wife who supports the hell out of me. I have kids who hate me right now because they're at that teenage stage, but that comes with the territory. But no, in reality, I think I just a lot of times will just bottle it all up, stuff it down as far as possible, and it's definitely not easy. But Yeah, I think that's mainly what I do these
That's that
days.
Jewish resolve we all want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the most saddest answer we've ever had on this podcast, bro. Like,
I'm just slowly dying on the inside from the deepest
No,
depths
you know
of my
what it is,
soul.
yeah.
I live in
This is the problem.
I live in hope and die in despair.
This is the
Realizing
problem.
the world is a terrible place.
This is the problem, right? If you turn to a rabbi and you're like, Rabbi, I am having mental issues. It's like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, well, I don't understand why God is doing this. They're going to tell you this one line, Gam zu latova. It basically translates from Hebrew to English to everything's for the best. Well, when you're told constantly your entire life that, hey, everything's for the best, God has a plan. Well, how do you combat God's plan, right? Right?
Yeah, no, I know better.
Right, exactly. You can't combat God's plan. So what do? Right? Again, this is coming from an Orthodox Jew. What do? I can talk to Eddie. I can talk to Jake. I can talk to Mike. Kevin, I'll talk to you too. I'll talk to any of you guys. And some of the issues I have is, well, why is this happening to me? Well, that's a more of a theological question versus a real mental issue, if you will.
Right.
But when you can't combat God's plan, the only thing to do is bottle it up, cowboy up, and just wait for your turn. Just keep on doing what you're doing until something good happens to you. And that's what I mean, right? It's not necessarily like I think you guys both know I'm pretty mentally healthy to the most part, right? Like, we've talked numerous times, and got Jake and Mike. How many times have I called you guys with so many different questions about so many different things, getting your advice, right? Like, someone who's
I can
not
pull
mentally
up your tab if you want me to give an accurate answer.
Exactly. No, but like, how many times have I called you? If someone who's not mentally healthy won't call friends to ask for advice or help. But most of my mental, breakdowns these days come from like, well, I'm 40 years old. I've got 4 kids, and social media is killing my business so bad that I now have to start and find something new. Well, that
And you're bald.
sucks. And I'm bald, right? And I'm short, and I have a big Jewish nose. And I wish I was a doctor, a banker, or a lawyer, but I didn't get those genes either, right? And now you bring out the Jewish guilt and the arguing with me, right? You have all of that, and it's just one of those things that, like, what are you supposed to do, right? There's nothing to do but bottle it up. When you go approach a rabbi and all this, it's like, well, God has a plan. Everything's for the best. Just keep praying that good things will happen. I'm like, well, that's bullshit. Like, I don't want to. I want an answer. I want an answer, but those are the answers you get. So instead of me going and getting pissed off at all the rabbis, I'm like, okay, you know what? Life sucks. I get it. It sucks for a lot of people in this world nowadays. I'm going to bottle up all my anger and all my, my depression that I'm getting from, feeling like I'm a total loser because I can't make a living at 40 years old. And you know what? I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep trucking away, and eventually it'll happen. And when it happens, I'm not going to have these issues anymore. So I think that's really, I get it's the most depressing answer you've ever heard, but I think coming from the religious side versus, like I said, I have a very healthy relationship with my wife. We've been together for 17 years. I'm still madly in love with her. I love my kids. I love my friends in the gun industry. But the things that are missing are more of a theological beef that I have. And like, again, there's no coming back from that, right? That's just between you and God, and you got to figure that out.
And to put a bow on this, the catharsis and the cathexis, right? We don't want to build up. Hello.
All right,
Just
What's
a
up, buddy?
3-year-old on camera. We don't want to build up stuck energy just to release it in a big explosion and then do it again, right? And there's an in-between called ebullition. It's an effervescence. It's a flow. And what you're describing there, I don't think is a bottling up. I think it's an accurate acknowledgement of reality. You're aligning your expectations appropriately, and you're moving on. And that's healthy. That's super healthy. And to say,
so I'm not screwed up.
You can't argue God's plan because it's not for us to know. Our feeble human brains want to know because we're arrogant and, boxed in by our feeble little brains. But that's what faith is. It's a belief in something unseen that is ultimately it's for the good. And if you rest in that, you're going to have peace. So I think we should wrap up because this has been really good and we're pushing in almost 2 hours now and it just flew by. But my family is waiting at home and I'm sure everybody else is also.
Dark here.
It's dark. It's dark where you are.
Don't be afraid of the dark, Eddie.
But I'm alone.
No, that's not true. You got a cat nibbling at your toes and dogs screaming. So, thank you.
Well,
Yehuda,
that's
appreciate
good. I guess that's good to know that I'm actually normal and that I'm just, I'm healthy.
When you made a brilliant point about being mentally well means you reach out. It doesn't mean you don't have problems and you don't stress. It means you reach out and you do. And I think we all do. It's the ones who don't that we really should be concerned about, who have the patina of tranquility, but below the surface, they're turbulent. Those are the ones we worry about. So the authentic ones, I'm not worried about.
I'm turbulent like hell under the surface. But I think, again, it's coming more waiting for my turn from God, if you will, right? And again, you can't bottle that up. I mean, you just got to suppress that because you can't fight God.
No, and your reward may not be in this lifetime, and nobody wants to hear that. But
Yep, pretty much.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your work. Keep on making Earth better. And for everybody who wants to reach you, where do they reach you?
Across social media at the Pew Pew Jew, or you can go to my website and support me there, thepewpewjew.com.
Boom. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Eddie and Mike and Kevin, as always. We really appreciate everybody listening and sharing this around wherever you choose to. Let's help make people happier and healthier and defending freedom as we see fit. Until next time, on behalf of the entire Walk the Talk America family, we wish you all great mental wellness. Bye-bye.